Conclusions are based on data, not speculation. All right? So whenever you do any sort of scientific work, and I tell my students that the conclusions are, you know, when you write a paper, it's not a mystery novel. This is one thing that I read somewhere. Everything is laid out for people to see, and the conclusions, in fact, are anticlimactical because the reader should have been able to come to those conclusions based on your data. That's all. The conclusion should go no further than that ever. In your discussion section, you can speculate as much as you want as long as it's clear it's speculation. But if you're worried about something you don't think is true based on the data, that's a big red flag. That's where we say, no, you can't, you know. And hopefully, as Steve said, in the peer review process, somebody's going to say, what were you thinking here? This is not what your data say.
Remember, when you write something and it goes to the peer review, that statement may very easily come out. Now, that doesn't help you at all, and having been in that situation, and you're like, really, you're really going to put this in this paper? You can't put this in there and have to go at it with someone who is severely outranks you. And unfortunately, one of his peers came to me and just said, Bob, relax. Do you really think this thing's going to be pulled out by this person? And when I thought about it, I was like, oh, yeah, why the hell am I even in this fight? So there's certainly that aspect of being professional, working through it that way, but also remembering through the peer review is the likelihood that's going to come out.
And I think it sounds like some of these might be obfuscation type lies, where they're misleading, like it's a strong relation versus it's, or they point blank straight up saying things that are, I mean, commission. They're saying there is an effect when there's not. Or do you see that?
It's more the first, like,
hyperbole.
Kind of interpreting things as stronger than they
puffery.
are, or perhaps if they don't want to interpret a finding or an effect, this is not as pronounced. What you can try and do in that situation, which is a little bit, I don't want to say it's going to sound backdoor now that I say it, is you can try and find the citations and the references for those magnitudes of effect. Like, this sounds silly, maybe it's only psychologists that are this uptight about it, but we actually have references when you're labeling magnitude, when you're labeling almost our adjectives. It's like, this is strongly non-normal, moderately non-normal, modestly non-normal. There are citations for that. Sadly, in terms of guidelines, yes, that's our field, yay. There are some things we do great, some things you wonder. But if there's that kind of thing where someone's finding similar patterns and they're interpreting it differently, you could say, you know, I found this and I was wondering, should we cite them because they found this effect and thought it was, I don't know if that would work because it's hard without you kind of explicitly saying this is what's going on. If you ever feel nervous, if you ever feel that this is something that if you explain the full story to your parents, that you would be embarrassed, that's the time to go talk to someone. Even if it's Robert DeLude. I use the mom rule all the time in everything I do. If I'm doing something and I feel like my mom would turn red on my behalf, then I question what I'm doing. And it doesn't have to be your parents, but someone whose opinion of you is very important. And if that makes you cringe, then perhaps talking to someone and saying, I just want to make sure my head's screwed on straight here. Is this something I'm, you know, should be worried about? Is it needless?
You can also, I mean, I've suggested this to students, and with the lawyer on the panel, he can tell us how much weight it holds. But essentially write a letter to someone that you trust, perhaps even Dr. DeLude or Dr. Tull, and say, we sent out this paper. I am not comfortable with these lines. I disagree with them, here's why, but my advisor insisted that it be in there. And then if it really comes into to an ethical question, then you've already got some plausible deniability. No. Or you've already at least expressed some concern. But.
Well, you know, and that's the aspect. I mean, the earlier question we had also about if I'm not interpreting the data the same way, but it's going to be insisted to be published from that way. You know, again, you have to tell me, what's the orders of the names going on that? And in your field of research, You know, I really cringed at the last election when the word flip-flopping, or I guess it was a couple elections ago, oh, he's flip-flopping, oh, he's flip-flopping. I felt like somebody should have said, you know something, if I haven't learned something so I can improve my position, I'm stupid. And, you know, but it doesn't play well. So when you're researching, I would hope if you learn something different, you're allowed to present it and say, in this paper over here that we wrote doing all this, this is what we said. Boom. You know, looking at it and putting more data against it, I believe this is more accurate. And now, for the field that you're at right now, it seems to me, if you've got someone who really wants to publish it this way, what level of the research are you at? Where are you going to be 2 years from now? And if this is your area that you really want to research on, you've published this here, and 2 years later, you get something that really blows that out of the water, and it's your name by itself on there, you're the one that now gets the credit for researching that and actually clarifying it and blowing this out of the water. It seems to me a lot of times you're getting puffery in here where people want that sensational headline out there so it grabs the attention so people will look at it. And I understand that is a challenge. But then the next aspect is, where are you on this? So how much are you going to fight this time? What is your reputation that goes to that paper? If your reputation's going on there, you have every right to write the dissenting opinion on there and say, I would like this attached to it because I don't agree with this part of it. But then again, evaluate. You got to evaluate your professors, understand how it's going to work, and the peer process for how you can clarify it without having to. What level are you at where you have to fight a battle?
Thank all of our panelists, Professor Clark, Professor Pitts, Professor Topoleski, and Professor Miller. Let's give them a big hand.